Hey everybody, my name's Mike Montgomery, and welcome to part 2 of the weekend bathroom renovation. The part that starts on Monday, where you finish all the stuff that you couldn't in a weekend. So let's go ahead and get started on modern builds. So here's where we left off in part 1 of what was supposed to be a weekend bathroom renovation. As you can tell by the befores, we've come a long way. This space was super outdated to begin with. So we're gonna start taking care of everything that we couldn't get in part 1. That video is linked in the description. First, I'm gonna be installing the faucet. I'll leave a link to the one I used down below. Anytime I'm buying sinks, faucets, or shower fixtures, I love to check eBay and Amazon. There's usually some cool designs at a really affordable price, and that's exactly what happened with the sink and faucet that I chose. The first thing I did was connect the supply lines on the bottom of the faucet, making sure that they were hand tight. Then I made sure to throw on the threaded pipe while I was still able to fit the supply lines inside of it. And after that was on, I could connect the adapters, which converted these from 3/8 to 1/2-inch threads, which are what I have coming out of the wall. I chose the faucet that I'm using for 2 reasons. One, it's pretty tall, which is important for a pedestal sink. It also only requires me to drill 1 hole into the countertop, since it's what you call a single pole faucet. That just means that there's 1 handle controlling the water flow. And once that was in, I could test everything out. It worked! Oh no, should tighten that down. Next, I'm gonna work on the pegboard backsplash. Here, I'm cutting down a select pine 1x6 to length, that way I can match the radiata pine plywood already behind the vanity. I'll be using this piece to cover up the seams in the laminate countertop. It's also going to create a little shelf on the counter. But to fit it around the faucet, I had to use the jigsaw to cut this little recess. It actually made everything look really custom, so I'm happy with how it came out. I used a high-tooth jigsaw blade to get as clean of a cut as possible, and then I came back with sandpaper to smooth that out even further. It seemed like Loctite Power Grab was the perfect product to put this board in place, so I ran a thick bead down the center and just held it where I wanted for about 10 or 15 seconds while the adhesive set. Loctite is not a sponsor, but this grabs really fast and bonds to about anything. Dang, that looks really, really good. Moving on. I finally got to cut down my dowels for the pegboard. I cut them to the same width as my shelves, 3.5 inches wide. At this point in the project, I wasn't sure how many I was going to use, so I just made sure to cut extra. The cool thing is these dowels are already pretty snug. They do wobble a little bit, and so I'm going to try and lock them into place. I'm going to use a 12-inch speed square along with some of this power grab that's supposed to grab instantly. That way they're locked square. Let's try it. I made sure to load up each of these holes with quite a bit of the adhesive. Then I pressed the dowel into place. I made sure everything was square, and then I held it in place until it didn't move. And once the first peg stayed in place, I repeated those same steps for the rest. I used a pine 1x4 to create the main pegboard shelf, and just like the other, I needed to cut a recess into it so it fit around the faucet. This time it was V-shaped to match how the handle articulates. It came out looking very fresh. And I'm gonna save the cool bird's eye shot for this piece for the big reveal. Just trust me, it's worth sticking around for. A lot of people were very nervous about me leaving bare plywood in a bathroom. All of the water exposure for sure would damage the plywood, so I put on 3 coats of water-based satin polyurethane to protect it. I ran a bead of caulk everywhere that the vanity meets the wall, and for this wood seam, I used almond color caulk to blend in a little bit better. Once I had that finished, I could check everything out, and I was loving how it looked. Perfect. And really quickly, I'd like to give a big thanks to the sponsor of today's episode, Squarespace. If you need a website, online store, or just a domain, Squarespace is your one-stop shop. And the best part is, you need 0 website building experience. Squarespace's library of built-in designer templates look incredible right out of the gate. I'm serious, if you can upload images and drag and edit text blocks, you are well on your way to a custom website. Plus, Squarespace sites are designed to look incredible on desktop, tablet, and mobile, no matter where customers find you. And right now, if you follow the link down in my description, that's squarespace.com/modernbuilds, you can build out your entire Squarespace site before entering any of your credit card info. And then when it's time to make your site live, don't forget to use the code modernbuilds at checkout for 10% off your first site. Once again, that's squarespace.com/modernbuilds for your free trial, and then use the code modernbuilds for 10% off your first site. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Now back to the build. So the vanity is looking great, much closer to the original vision. At first, I kind of liked this fake parquet look, but after putting in the radiata pine plywood around the vanity, I really think that these two wood tones clash. A lot of people commented that in part 1 of the renovation, and I gotta give you credit, I think you're right. So my new plan is to install peel and stick laminate on top of this peel and stick laminate. Let's give it a try. I bought the laminates I'm using online from Walmart, and I'll be sure to leave a link to those, along with all of the other materials and supplies for this project in the description. These are great because they are stupid easy to install, plus they're very affordable, which is a great option considering this renovation is only temporary. My goal here is to make the bathroom quote-unquote move-in ready. That way I can renovate the rest of the house with this looking nice. Then I'm gonna come back, take this room down to the studs, and renovate it completely. In that renovation, I'll take out the shower, tile the entire room, and do everything custom. But for this, I wanted to do something budget-friendly, maybe even renter-friendly. That way I can test how good all of these things hold up over time until I renovate this room again. I started by laying down all of my whole pieces, and it was really convenient having the lines of the existing parquet floor. Then I started cutting all of my custom pieces. First, I tried a jigsaw, which left pretty clean cuts, but was a little unwieldy. I also noticed on the packaging that you can cut these laminate tiles with a razor blade or utility knife. I had a brand new blade in mind, so it was extra sharp, and I still had a tough time cutting these. I just kept scoring the tile back and forth until it finally started to break away. I personally would not lay tile this way, I would use a jigsaw, but in the spirit of being relatable and embracing the suck, I just went for it and cut all of my pieces custom with the utility knife. So it is possible. Laying down all of these custom pieces though was really exciting. I was glad that I batch cut everything and then got to lay them down here in one go. And really quickly, before everyone comments it, I know you're supposed to lift the toilet before you lay down floors, but I wanted to cut around the toilet because I know a lot of people might try this in a situation where they're renting or they don't feel comfortable doing that. Feel free to roast me in the comments, but I really don't care. Oh, and here you can see how I made paper templates scribing around the base of the toilet, and it ended up working really great. If you have any other ideas for something like this, leave a comment down below. Throughout the video, you've been seeing me wear these. These are OSHA-approved hearing protection and earbuds, and they're called plug phones. The battery life on the Liberate model that I'm wearing lasts all day in the shop while I'm building, plus they are super loud. I usually have the volume on 3 out of 10. I'll be sure to leave a link to plug phones down in the description if you're interested in checking them out, and if you buy some, don't forget to use the code modernbuilds at checkout where you'll always get 15% off. Big thanks plug phones, now let's get back to it. By the time I got to this point in the bathroom, I was getting tired of bending over and cutting all of these tiles with just a razor blade, but I kept persistent and I finished everything off before I called it a night. It fits. And that is the last piece. Woo! The next day, I came back and installed 1x2 baseboard and door trim everywhere that I needed it. I also used silicone bath sealant around my tub and all of my transitions. This cleaned everything up a lot. So I want to carry the whole pegboard and dowel look onto this wall with the towel hooks. I just cut more of the same dowels down, then drilled a hole on one end so that I could epoxy in the screw that came with the drywall anchors that I'm using. The anchors are rated for 75 pounds. I hope they work, and the next thing I need to do is drill them into the wall. I started by making sure all of my marks were level, and then I could set the drywall anchor in place. This connection is way stronger than just using screws into drywall. The epoxy in my first dowel failed on me, and the reason is there was just too much resistance between the drywall anchor and the screw. So I got my driver out and I just screwed the screw in and out a few times to help loosen the anchor up. Then I came back with a second dowel that I made, and it worked great. Got one. After this towel hook was successfully installed, I did the same on the other two. I even came back later with some more of that Loctite power grab, and I attached them to the walls the same way that I did with the pegboard dowels earlier. This scrap piece of radiata pine plywood is going to be a miniature pegboard, and I'm going to use it as a toilet shelf. It had a little bit of weathering or staining that I needed to trim off, and I used a straight edge along with my circular saw to cut it to its final size. Just like on the backsplash, I divided it up into a grid, and I used a 1-inch spade bit to drill all of my holes. Then I sanded through the grits. This plywood had been sitting outside, and you can see it had quite a bit of sun damage, but it looks great now. After finding the stud in the wall, I drilled through the plywood into that 2x4, and I made sure to drill in the location that the shelf will eventually cover. That way these fasteners are totally hidden. So by now y'all know the drill. I used construction adhesive to make sure that the dowels were square to the wall. Then I could throw my shelves on and apply a couple of coats of water-based polyurethane. Oh, that is perfect. And my final fix for this weekend bathroom renovation is raising the old shower head because I am way too tall for it. I'm gonna be using one of these affordable shower S-arms. They're really easy to install. Check it out. First, you want to remove the existing shower head, then you can take out the extension arm. A wrench like this is usually pretty helpful. This is the shower S-arm, and it's what we're using to raise the shower head. Make sure to use plenty of thread tape on each of your connections, but it's a really simple install. You just need to turn it in place. Then you'll want to run your shower and make sure there's no leaks behind the wall so you can install your flange and your shower head back on. And with that, this bathroom is done. Actually, finally done. Hold on, we're not done yet. Recently, while I was out of town, my friend Rachel Metz did a renovation on my laundry room, and the cool mural on the ceiling inspired me to do some art for above the toilet. And since there was the actual paint left over, I thought it would be cool to tie these two rooms together. I was totally winging it, and I had no idea what I was doing. I'm not good at painting, and I figured if I made 4, then at least 1 might be good. So that's what I went with. After everything dried, I was able to check all of my options and choose the one that I liked best. I even consulted Instagram, and you guys had good taste because I agree. Option A was the right choice. Meanwhile, Rachel stopped back by, and we looked at all of the other paintings that I made. And after some careful consideration, we decided there was one more painting that passed as passable. So we just had to figure out which side was up, frame it, and this bathroom was finally done. As a reminder, here's what the bathroom looked like before, and here is after. When I started, this bathroom was super outdated. I think I've mentioned before, the house was built in 1958, and I don't think that the room had been updated since then. The medicine cabinet was whack, but now this vanity is the bomb. I really like all of the natural pine tones mixed with the fresh white, and then with all of the black fixtures on top, it is extra cool. The custom shelves around the faucet are great, and even though this whole pegboard isn't exactly modular, it still looks awesome. I threw a waterproof mat underneath the sink in the vanity, and in the other cabinets, I used this terrazzo style shelf liner. Going back to the befores, you can tell that the toilet area was boring, but now it is clean, organized, and 100% modern builds. Applying a coat of white tub and tile surround did wonders for that area, and getting rid of the original floors was definitely the right move. The original peel and stick laminate really clashed with the other finishes, and this stuff was so easy to install. Man, I love this bathroom. So thanks a ton for watching, and I really hope you all enjoyed this video. I gotta tell you, it feels great to have the first room in the new Joshua Tree house complete. The next affordable remodel that I wanna do is in the kitchen. I'm gonna attempt a week-long kitchen renovation, maybe under $500 or $1,000. I've also got a whole shed to workshop series where I'm turning the old barn on my property into my new workshop. That'll be a series of at least 3 videos coming out in the next week or so. All that to say, make sure and click subscribe and the notification bell down below. That way you can stay updated when those videos go live. Thanks a ton, everybody, for all the support on this new Joshua Tree content, and we'll see you next time on Modern Builds. Bye.